Hi, friends. So I wanted to share with you. A few of you asked me about painting bees. I paint bees every year, and this is that time of year. So I wanted to show you a couple little bees I painted a while ago. And, watercolors, one of the beauties of watercolors, I think, is that for me anyway, the way I paint is I want to give people a feel for something. I like to keep things not too detail oriented. So when you look at my paintings, you can kind of fill in those white spaces and the subtleness in a way that you like. So today I'm going to share with you how I paint bees. Now, I don't think there's any doubt that's a bee when you see it, yet I don't have all this tons of detail in there. That's just not how I paint. Here's another little bee. I think most would know, yes, that's a bee. Excuse me. So I thought it might be good to first give you actually, because this was interesting to me a few years ago, a little bit about the bee. It was kind of interesting to me. I didn't know these little fun facts. So a bee, if you really wanted to get detailed, which is not me, they typically have these three stripes. The last stripe is kind of their little tushy. And this is something I didn't know. They have three pairs of legs. So they actually have four legs from the mid body, and then they have these two little legs coming out the front. They also have their little antennae, so they have six legs and two pairs of wings. Now if you look, I don't paint two pairs of wings. I just paint two little wings. So you are free to paint however many you would like. You can paint 10 legs if you like a bee with 10 legs. And they have 5 eyes. I don't paint 5 eyes. So I thought this might just be fun to kind of show you, the anatomy actually of a honeybee is 6 legs, 5 eyes, 2 pairs of wings. But as you're going to see, that's not what I put in my detail. So again, here's my little bee. I don't think there's any doubt that's a bee. And here's one that's really quite blurry. So let's go ahead. Today, as always, I am painting with my cold press 140 pound 300 GSM. And as always, I am using my Velvet Touch Princeton brush, round number 8. I encourage you to find the brush that you seem to like working with. The number 8 seems to work well for me. I can get some of the bigger, thicker strokes, and I can also get a point. Look at that beautiful little point there. So I can get these little tiny, thin legs if I want to, or stamens. I can also get these broad, thick strokes. Okay, so let me get this is still, my flowers are a little bit wet, so I just want to be careful. Let's use this paper over here. Now this is just a student grade paper. I, as always, am kind of inviting you to buy the best products that you can. Paper's really important. The best paper you can afford, go ahead and buy that. It does make a difference in how your paint spreads and the absorbency. I like cotton paper. Arches is my favorite, but when I'm just doing these tutorials and I'm practicing, which I'm constantly painting, I use, just these little booklets that I get from Michael's, but they are cold press. They are 140 pound, but they carry this brand Artisto, and it's quite nice. I like it. So let's go ahead and go through painting a bumblebee. Today I'm using Winsor Newton paints. Every day I'm using Winsor Newton paints. And today for the bumblebee, I am using Cad Yellow. I might use a little bit of orange, we'll see. I'm also going to use, I do not use black. I actually use Winsor Newton Payne's gray. And it's, to me, not so stark a black. So I kind of like that. It even has almost, if you go light enough, it has kind of a grayish tint to it. So let me show you here. Black for me is just very stark. So this Payne's gray is a little bit more translucent. I can add colors to it. It can get quite dark. Now if I add water to it, it can get quite light. And I just find that works for me. So that's Payne's gray, Winsor Newton. So let's go ahead and play with our little bee here. When I paint bees, typically if I'm showing them on a flower, I'm not showing them from the top. So I'm not going to get or be painting this type of view. I'm going to usually be painting more of like a side view like this. So that's what I'm going to share with you today. Now, I always encourage you guys to, paint. Give the beauty of painting, the enjoyment of painting is painting things how you see them, how it makes sense to you. You color a bee any color you want. You make their wings any color you want. That's how I paint, and that's what is most fun for me. So let's just start. This is typically what I do. I will start with, I always give my bees kind of 3 parts to their body. So I kind of have this area, which I typically do a pie shape. Now, the key here is this is very wet. So make sure you're not using too much water, because when I put black into this, it's just going to spread all over the place. So I like to be a little careful with how much water I'm using. Again, that black can really spread and take over. So maybe even tap off your brush. I'm going to grab a little bit of gray here, and I'm just going to barely touch here. See how that black already spread? That's what this black color does. So be very careful with it. Now I tend to paint my little bees' booties in black. And I'm just going to draw that up and make the line, and then their little head. So there you go. Now this little guy is kind of a slender one. Now when I get to the wings, all I do is I get a little paint on my brush, not too much. And their wings typically come from this second part of their body, their second section. So I've got no paint on my brush right now, and I'm just going to touch that middle part and pull out just like that. And then I'm going to do the other side, which is kind of been behind here. And look at that. That's a perfect little wing. Now I'm going to go in for the legs, which again, I do draw 6 legs because I just do, and that's what they have. So I'm going to be using the very, very tip toe of my brush. And the legs, what I found, come out of also this second area. So I'm going to draw the very back legs like that. And then one coming in from the other side, which of course is going to be a little bit shorter. And then 2 more legs. And the one from the other side. And then there are 2 little front legs, which are a little shorter. Now they do have these little tiny antennae, which are going to take very light point. That's even too much. Just like that. So once this dries, I might go in and just add a little bit more black to it. And, you know, that's certainly your choice. It might give it a little bit more depth there. But honestly, just be careful of how much water you have in your brush. You never want your brush dripping. A lot of times I will tap it off and get that excess water. So I will paint one more. I'm going to paint it going in the opposite direction. So let me grab some of my Winsor Newton Cad Yellow again. And I'm just going to use the top of my palette here. I've got quite a bit of paint on there. I'm going to get rid of just a little bit of that and water it down a bit. There we go. You can even add orange in here to them. So I'm going to do that pie-shaped center of his body. Another little tip, I always leave white in my paintings. So I've always got these white spaces. I never, or very rarely, use what they call white gouache. And I'm probably saying that wrong. That's how I've always said it. It's a white paint. I like to preserve my whites and leave whites in my paintings. I think it creates a lot of interest. And, you know, that's just kind of my thing. So here we go. Here's the middle part of his body. Then I'm going to leave a little white space in there for that black. There's his little butt. And here's his little head. So there you go. Now, if you want to pull up some of that paint, just dry your brush off. Go in there, grab some of that paint, and let your brush soak it up. So I've got this perfect little kind of C curve. Again, we're just going for me, how I paint, the illusion of a bee. I don't think anybody's going to have any doubt that this or this is a bee. That's how I like to paint. Then I'm just going to barely touch right here. Let that paint spread, do its thing. That's the beauty of watercolors. And I do paint his little butt black. Make sure you don't have too much water on your brush because that will certainly take over his little face there. Now I'm going to do his little legs with the very tip of my brush. Now, when you're doing you want to get that fine point. You don't want to be putting your brush horizontally because you're going to be then using the belly, the wide part of your brush. We want to use that tip. Sometimes I don't hold my brush straight up when I'm filming because then you can't see what I'm doing. So here, let's draw those legs. We've got the legs that come out from the middle of the body here. Okay, I'm going to do the one in back, which will be a little shorter. And I'll do these two that come out right here and the one on the other side. And then his two little front legs and his little antennae. There you go. Now the funnest part is those wings, and I'm going to turn my page. So I'm rinsing all of the paint off of my brush, and I just have water on there. And now what I'm going to do is pull the paint so that I can pull the wings out, because the wings have a transparency to them. So I'm just going to point from this second little area of his little bee body. And the wings also, they're kind of in this, you can't see that, but their wings, actually they have two sets of wings, and they kind of go like this and like that. But I just do the main wing here. So wetting my brush a tiny bit, not too much, and pointing and then pressing down. Now I'm doing this upside down, so hopefully this looks right for you. So that got a little fat because was doing it upside down. And then the wing in the back. There you go. So there's your little wings. They look transparent. I would leave them at that. If you want to give your wings a slight blue tint, you can certainly do that. That might be pretty. Let's try that here. They also, you know, I've seen a lot of paintings which look really pretty, and they put little veins in there. You can do that too. So I'm going to use a tiny bit of my, let's see, I think this might be cerulean, Winsor Newton, and I'm just going to dab in there. So you can do that as well. It's really, do whatever you want. If you want pink wings, do pink wings. So there's my bee. I hope that helped you. Again, this is always, it's just practice. That's all this is all about. Just practicing, playing with the water control. I do have a video on water, and if you want to take a look at that, I will actually put it below in the notes. Meanwhile, I hope that helped you. I think they're really fun. This is kind of the final of some bees I did quite some time ago, but it seems like every year I get asked about how to make bees, and I do use that wet in wet technique. Okay, so I hope that was fun for you. I love hearing what interests you and what you like to paint, where your challenges are. And I will see you soon. I'm also on Instagram and Facebook if that's your jam. I do a little bit different tutorials in there. And thank you so much, everybody. Okay, we'll see you soon.